it is time. This is what the Shark Cycle presentation is all about. These are modified competitors, true blue. They come from short tracks, and they've come here to give you their best. It is my honor to present the voice of the Modified Racing Series, to present the starting lineup from 26 to first position.
All right, thank you very much, Ben Dodge. Starting in the 26th position is a newcomer to the series, races out of Ashby, Massachusetts. He is driving car number 87, the Greenville Motorsports Modified, David Bitondo.
In the 25th starting spot, this gentleman was an outstanding driver in late models at the High Banks of Monadnock. He'll set behind the wheel of the Fenton Family Ford dealership, number 77. The Townsend family owns the automobile from Richmond, New Hampshire. Give Matt Mead a nice round of applause.
In the 24th starting spot, it'll be car number 79, the Dunleavy Tire and Truck Repair sponsored automobile for Preston, Connecticut driver Max Zackham.
In the 23rd starting position, this talent comes from Northport, New York. He's been a big supporter in 2013. Setting behind the wheel of the Troyer chassis number 19, would you welcome David Schneider?
Starting in the 22nd position, it'll be car 1 New Hampshire, veteran campaigner, two-time series winner out of Swansea, New Hampshire in the Hamshaw Lumber car. It's Rob Goodenough.
Starting back in the 21st starting position, he's won here at Stafford. He's a graduate from the SK Light division. He drives the Victory Bar and Grill machine. I've nicknamed him the real deal. Ladies and gentlemen, the black number 9 from Millis, Massachusetts, Tommy Barrett Jr.
Starting in the 20th position, it'll be veteran driver Todd Owen out of Somers, Connecticut. He's driving Jack Bateman's number 17 Jack's Racing Engine sponsored mod.
In the 19th starting position, another graduate from the SK Lights here at Stafford. He'll drive the Buckeye Construction number 52. Ladies and gentlemen, from Lebanon, Connecticut, in the orange 52 car is Mark Buckeye.
Starting in the 18th position, it'll be the two-time series champion out of Lisbon, Connecticut. He's driving the Dolly Collision and custom-sponsored number 5 Connecticut. Please welcome Chris Pasteryak.
17th starter in the grid. He too raced in pro stocks, and he raced in weekly competition here at Stafford. From Portland, Connecticut, driving car number 34, it is David Etheridge.
Starting in the 16th position, recently won his first ever Valenti Modified Racing Series win at Thompson, Connecticut Speedway. He is a veteran modified campaigner. He's driving the Alloy Wheels sponsored number 99. Please welcome Canton, Massachusetts driver Richard Savory.
15th starter in the grid, the man that runs up front in the point standings. We saw him on the podium already tonight from Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania. He'll drive the Monk's Hand Cleaner, Gary Cazella, number 25. Ladies and gentlemen, Rowan Pennick.
Starting 14th on the grid's a second-generation driver from Madison, Connecticut, a two-time series winner. He's driving the black number 0 car. Please welcome Mike Holdridge.
13th starter in the field. He'll set behind the wheel of the car that won the championship 1 year ago. John McKennedy usually sets behind the wheel, but tonight he's looking racy. From Preston, Connecticut, the Spafco number 21 for the talented Kenny Berry.
12th on the grid will be car number 13. Young charger with this series in the LG Restaurant Supply sponsored modified for Stephen Massey of Bellingham, Massachusetts.
11th starter in the field. He runs up front in the point standings on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. He runs up front in the point standings in the SK Modifieds here at Stafford. Ladies and gentlemen, the kid with a big smile and a ton of talent will start 11th on the grid. From Berlin, Connecticut, car number 31 for Ryan Preece.
Finish correction starting in the 10th spot. It'll be car number 58. That's the Riverhead Industries Supply sponsored car for Eric Goodale of Wading River, New York.
In the 9th starting spot, it'll be the man that sets behind the wheel of car number 2. They call him the Matador. He too is a graduate of the SK Modifieds from Manchester, Connecticut. Would you welcome Jeff Malave?
Starting in the 8th spot, it'll be car number 15. Veteran racer out of Lisbon, Connecticut, driving the Dolly Collision and custom number 15. It's Charlie Pasteryak.
In the 7th starting spot, this gentleman is also a big factor in the point run. rundown. From Titusboro, Massachusetts, he drives a Stewart's Automotive Machine. Ladies and gentlemen, the color purple and yellow is the colors on car number 85 for Louis Michaelides.
Starting in the 6th spot, returning to modified racing this year with the Valenti Modified Racing Series after several years' absence. He's a former NASCAR wheel and modified competitor. We welcome back this year the driver of car number 45 from Brewster, Massachusetts, Dan Meservey Jr.
In the 5th starting spot, this gentleman turned some heads in qualifying. The Sprocket Cycles Machine out of Southington, Connecticut. Ladies and gentlemen, car number 16 for Bobby Drown.
Now we go to the 2nd row. Starting in the 4th spot, he's a veteran racer out of Nashua, New Hampshire, driving car number 53, the Advanced Gas Distributors Chevrolet for Stormin Norman Wren.
In the 3rd starting spot, he drives the Creedy-owned race car. Barry Cannell has been turning the wrenches from Bath, Pennsylvania. Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome car number 23 for Zane Zenner.
To the front row we go, to the outside. Starting in the number 2 spot, driving car number 68, the Wheeler Auto sponsored modified for Meriden, Connecticut's Keith Rocco.
And ladies and gentlemen, the man that starts at the point, Stafford's all-time winningest driver, 100 career SK modified victories to his credit. He drives Joe Brady's JB Fish Camp number 00. Ladies and gentlemen, starting at the point, the one, the only, from Plainville, Connecticut, TC Ted Christopher. That is your starting lineup. They are staged before you with all the colors of the rainbow as we are moments away. The Start Your Engine festivities will be taking place in just a moment. Isaac, Rebecca, Emma, Natalie, and Abby are down there with Tony Sutton. We'll be turning things over as soon as we get the command, as we now direct our attention to CarQuest Victory Lane and Tony Sutton.
Ladies and gentlemen, the words that we've been waiting for to start this race were going to be given to us by the Junior Shark team.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
It's showtime here at Jackaroot Stafford Motor Speedway. Bob Charland and Shark Cycle are the big sponsors for tonight's presentation. Bob will move to the starter's stand. Lovely Virginia Tibbetts will be there with him. This is what we've come to see. We've witnessed incredible competition from the SK Modifieds, the SK Lights, the late models, the limited late models, and the Dare Stock division. But now it's time for tonight's big dance. Covering the action down in turn number 3, he'll carry the competition down the back straightaway, is the gentleman that was the big-time announcer from the Battle of the Beach from Daytona International Speedway. He is the voice of New Hampshire International Speedway as well, Joe Koss. You're going to be taking a look at him, Joe, for the very first time ever as they head down the backstretch.
Well, it's going to be a pretty wild vantage point at midway way up to the scaffolding over here in turn 3, and it's a vantage point that'll bring a unique perspective to the call of tonight's event. They'll make their way down the backstretch into turn number 3. Remember the SK Modified feature earlier in the night? It's where Woody Pitcat made all the magic happen, and I think we're going to see some more magic on this end of the speedway as well. It'll be a very exciting place to be on this end of the speedway as I call the action tonight from turn 3.
The gentleman that's covering the action down on pit road, it's a combination effort tonight, Mr. Jim Wayne and Tony Sutton. Tony, your final thoughts before we go green.
Well, one thing that's really interesting is this rule that they have. You can't change tires down here unless you have a flat tire. But the rule book says you can move the tires from the front axle to the drive axle. I've never seen that done before, but it's in the rule book. Maybe it'll come to play tonight. I don't know. We'll wait and see.
John Spence has been the legendary voice that has announced almost each and every one of the Modified Racing Series events. Tonight, the front row, John, we've got two of Stafford's best, Ted Christopher and Keith Rocco. they're going to be starting in the front row, but you've got some big dogs starting in the middle and the back of the pack.
Louis Michelitis is back there. Charlie Pastriak, we don't see much of him, but boy, he was impressive in the qualifying heat. Eric Goodale, Steve Massey, Ryan Preece. It's going to be a good one. Richard Savory's back there, Rowan Pennick. These are the guys that sit atop the point standings coming in here in their quest for the championship and that big $10,000 check in November.
Scott Tapley is the man that keeps the playing field fair on the Modified Racing Series. He's caught some of the competitors, well, being a little bit, well, looking for the racer's edge, we'll call it. That's what a good official does. He's a searcher, kind of a sniffer, and I think that kind of applies in this case. There's no question about it. Let's go back to Joe Koss. Joe, how do they look now as we're about ready to get them fired up?
Well, you got to keep your eye on the two guys in the front row. They won their qualifying heats early in the afternoon today. Ted Christopher driving Joe Brady's race car. You've got to count him as a favorite tonight. But car number 68, Keith Rocco, has not had any success at Stafford in 2013. Tonight could be his night to turn that around.
Joe, I want you to make sure you pay attention. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask you to join with us to rise and salute our competitors tonight for the main event for the Modified Racing Series. Get up, raise your hats, make some noise. It's showtime. This is what you've come to see, and the man that brings you that excitement each and every time is Mr. John Spence.
All right, thank you very much. Here as the field now makes its way through the third and fourth corner. Pace vehicle into the infield as we get set to go green, and we are underway here with the Shark Cycle 80 2013, and at the drop of the green flag, it's Christopher and Keith Rocco side by side.
On the high lane, Nerf bar for the top spot. It's Christopher by a half a car off turn 4.
Back to the line they come. It's Ted Christopher. Keith Rocco tries the crossover. It just doesn't work. Christopher still in command. Look at Norman Wren. He'll challenge among the top 3.
Wren started in the fourth spot, and he is currently in third going into turn number 3.
Back to the line they come. It's still Christopher, the leader. He sets the pace down in turn number 1. Bottom of turn 2. It's still Christopher in command.
Christopher has that top spot. Keith Rocco tucks it right up on the back bumper as they hit the midpoint of the back straightaway. Into turn number 3. Christopher, Rocco, Norm Wren, 1 car length separate the top 3.
Shane Ziner runs in fourth spot. Fifth is Dan Meserve Jr. Right behind him is the 16 car. And Louis Michelitis is in tow going into turn number 1.
There's no question about it. Pastriak is trying to get dialed in. So is it Ryan Preece, the red number 31 car. They're setting among the top 10 cars. Here comes Preece. He's going to the outside, John, as he comes off turn 4.
Got some good side-by-side racing as you scan back through, Ben, as Stephen Massey goes to the outside. And Massey is racing hard with Eric Goodale off 2.
Good battle on the racetrack as the 1 for 7th. Ryan Preece picks up that 7th spot going to the high side of Louis Michelitis. Michelitis trying to battle back to the bottom, but it's Preece to hang on to 7th.
There's no question about it. Drivers that are mover and shakers include the group that is right there, and among them is, of course, the Massey kid. He moves to the inside. Pastriak can't believe his eyes. The 15 of Charlie Pastriak has just been passed by Stephen Massey. Stephen Massey is running strong. He moves from the outside to the inside off turn 4.
Teddy Christopher continues to set the pace. Won this race back in 2010, but boy, Rocco is right there knocking on the door, making a bid down low going into turn number 3. They are Nerf bar to Nerf bar. Rocco and TC battling off of 4.
They come back to the line. Lead change occurs. Kid Rock takes over the lead. It's short-lived. Craig Christopher to the outside off turn 2.
Wheel to wheel, dead even off the corner, but give Keith Rocco the top spot. Ted Christopher settles into second, and it's a long way back to the third place automobile of Norm Wren. He's now 10 car lengths between the top 2.
Zahner still runs in that fourth spot solidly. The Pennsylvania driver coming up here to compete here tonight, and he's got a good run going here early on after 8 completed laps. Running in that 5th spot, it's going to be the number 31 of Ryan Preece, followed by Dan Meserve and classy Steve Massey.
Traditionally here at Stafford in a Modified Racing Series event, the big dogs take their time coming to the front. They don't want to wear out their tires. We told you what Tony Sutton told you earlier. The tires are the key, and there's no changing. Look at Massey now. John, he's working his way through traffic. He's all over Meserve. Behind him, Goodale has come to life. He's applying the pressure as well as they work work their way back to the line.
He's putting the pressure on Bobby Brown, driving the number 16. First time we've seen him here in quite some time competing with us here with the Valenti Modified Racing Series here tonight. Goody's going to go to the high side. Brown's going to beat him down the back straightaway as they work into the third corner.
Meanwhile, Barrett is coming to the front of the class. Car number 9, Tommy Barrett, is getting dialed in. We'll see what the advantage will be as they come off turn number 2. Joe Koss looks at Barrett as he works his way through traffic.
Yeah, Tommy Barrett deep in the pack right now, finds a lane to the inside of Richard Savory on the back straightaway. In front of them, Rowan Pennick, an aggressive move to the inside. Now contact. The 9 of Tommy Barrett spins after making contact with a 2 of Jeff Malave. He's able to keep the car pointed, and he keeps rolling on the front straightaway.
He keeps it going in forward motion, John Spence. That's the sign of a good driver. Meanwhile, back up to the front of the field, we've got another battle going on. Look at Massey, John, as he muscles his way down underneath the Meservey car.
What a nice move by Stephen Massey as he works his way to the front. But boy, there's a lot of asphalt to cover between Teddy Christopher and Norman Wren as these two are checking out into another zone here off of turn number 4.
Well, there's no question about it. A little further back, Pastriak is trying to make his presence known as well. Meanwhile, the number 2 is also coming to the front, and we haven't talked much at all about Richard Savory with car number 99. Savory goes to the outside of Pastriak.
Yeah, he'll pick up another spot over Pastriak. Trying to follow him through to the outside lane is Dave Etheridge in the 34. Yellow and black automobile as they work off turn number 4, but Pastriak has the spot.
Yes, Pastriak, both father and son combination. They're running in a pack all of their own now as they head off into down the back straightaway. Another good battle is going on. Meanwhile, Kenny Berry's coming on strong.
He certainly is, and so is Ryan Priest as he comes up behind Norm Wren, working into turn number 1. Priest closes on the number 53 car on the back straightaway. Oh, look at the 00. All over Keith Rocco as they work off turn number 4.
Well, we've seen these two competitors do it in the SKs, but we haven't seen them do it in the Modified Racing Series like this. They head for Joe Koss off turn 2.
Christopher on the back bumper of Keith Rocco. Half a car length separating the race leaders on the back straightaway. Into turn number 3 they go. It's Christopher just to follow in the tire tracks of Keith Rocco.
Off the turn, they come back to the line. Well, all that's been happening. John, look at Ryan Priest. He is all over the number 53 car as he continues to work his way to the inside. No, it just doesn't happen now. Here comes Massey. He's come to life as well.
We've got Christopher going to the bottom of Rocco with one of his patented moves in turn number 3, and TC takes the top spot as they come down the front straightaway and complete lap number 19.
Off that second turn, Joe Koss picks him up down the back straightaway.
Christopher now with 2 car lengths over the second place car of Keith Rocco. Look a little bit further back. Right now, here comes Ryan Priest. Swings to the inside of Norman Wren. That allows Steve Massey to close in as well.
Certainly does, and you can see that Priest is really up on his game here tonight with this number 31 car. That is a legendary race car. It came from Bowman Gray. It was bought by the Moniz family to compete here in the Modified Racing Series, and it's only been out a couple of times. John, let's tell them a little history about that car.
Well, that car, as you said, I think you covered it well, Ben. It's got a lot of history down south, and Ryan's trying to make it historical here in the north, and he has done well with the car. Last time out, they had a mechanical problem. There he goes to Wren. To the inside of the Advanced Gas Distributors number 53. Ryan Priest is battling Storm and Norman Wren as they storm down the front chute.
Well, Massey becomes the tail that wags a dog in this one. To the inside comes Priest. Joe picks him up off turn 2.
Boy, Massey's got a nice run going. Go to you, Joe.
Massey holds on to that 4th spot. Wren back to 5th as they come back turnless front straightaway.
You know, Stephen Massey's had one of those years that has been loaded with highs and been loaded with tremendous lows. Massey is a real racer. You know, we talk so much about Tommy Barrett that sometimes we forget that we've got other talent there, and it's Massey.
It's trouble on the front straightaway. The 52 of Mark Bacchi came off turn number 4 and plowed it into the front stretch retaining wall, and his car has come to rest about 100 feet shy of the the start-finish line.
We are 23 laps into this Shark Cycle 80-lap event. What we've seen so far is simply this. It is Keith Rocco, who started in the outside row, took over the lead, and then we saw Teddy Christopher with a bold move to the outside, teaching him a lesson, getting the job done. In addition to that, we've seen Ryan Preece coming to the front of the field. Preece started the event in the 11th spot and has worked his way up to the 3rd position. Then car number 13 for Massey started 12th. He's also coming to the front of the field as well. You know, John, let's talk a little bit about Joe Brady, the man that owns the 00. Legendary guy. As car owners, he ranks right up there with individuals like the famous Lenny Bowler, like other great individuals in this sport that we've seen so many times before. And tonight, Joe Brady's race car is looking stronger than ever. Last time at Thompson, it was the end of a spark plug wire that cost them to be dropped out of the event. A lot of people thought it was the engine. It wasn't. It was something as simple as that. Michaelides is on pit road, John, and that's not a good sign. He's in the point hunt, car number 85.
And so is Chris Pastriak in the 5 Connecticut. The 0 car, Mike Holdridge, is in there. So is Tommy Barrett in car number 9. That was a tough break for Barrett over in the corner. He rubbed tires with Malave. The car loosened up. The back end came around on car number 9, forcing him down onto the inside of the number 4 corner, and to the rear he had to go. So it'll be interesting to see just what he can do with car number 9. We don't see the traditional tire swap yet because it is only 22 laps completed. You'll find that a little bit later on in this event.
I think you will, definitely, for sure. Tony Sutton is covering the action down on pit road. Tony, you got any stories for us there?
Well, the 85's got some damage around the right rear wheel opening, and they're working on Pastriak's car in order to get some adjustments done on both the stagger and it looked like the rear shocks they were working on. But he's still here. They're actually cleaning his windshield from material that was picked up off the racetrack. 85 pushes out, Pastriak pushes out. They're both out of the pit.
Michaelides 3rd in the points right now. He slipped back to 3rd because Tommy Barrett slid up to the number 2 position in the point standings. So, and Pastriak's 5th in the point standings. So you had 2 of the top 5 in the pit area with some early problems here on the 22nd
Look at the back eye machine. It's severely damaged on the right side of the race car itself. Kind of an interesting story there. He bought that car off racingjunk.com, which is one of the sponsors for the Modified Racing Series. He had plans of just running a few races, and he's had a lot of success with it. Speaking of success, Joe, I sent you to turn number 3 for punishment, but I think you're making me look bad because I think you like it over there.
Well, one thing that I love about this vantage point up in the scaffolding in turn 3 is I could look down into the race car from that vantage point, a little bit of height right next to the speedway. And here's what I'm learning from that, Ben, is when you look down into the cockpit of Ryan Preece's race car, he is holding a very pretty wheel. He has already picked up several positions, right now being shown 4th on the racetrack. And as he cuts that car down to the left at the bottom of turn 3, it's nice and smooth, where guys like Chris Pastriak, who had to come in for service, he's really sawing on that wheel, and he doesn't have a race car that he's very happy with. That's something that I've been able to pick up, and that's something that you can't always see sitting up with you guys in the press box.
There's no question about that. You know, you talk about the perfect line. Here at Stafford, no 2 turns are the same. There's a great old story about Mel Barlow when he purchased the dirt track and made it into asphalt. He wasn't, well, a civil engineer by any stretch of the imagination. When they came in and they surveyed the facility, he went out with a box of popcorn in his hand and he moved the stakes all around. His wife told me that story many, many years ago, and that is what made, that moving of the stakes has made no 2 turns the same here at Stafford, and it's brought some incredible competition. Let's go back down quickly to Tony Sutton.
And Mark, you all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Just
obviously a real hard hit into the wall. What happened that caused you to go up into the wall?
I don't know. Something in the right front let go, and it just took off up the track.
Well, we can always fix the car as long as you're okay. Mark Buckeye out of the car, out of the ambulance, checked out okay, and now he's going to go over and look at exactly the extent of the damage on his car. Back upstairs.
Well, Tommy Barrett's still down there on pit road, and they are looking over the engine area of car number 9. Max Zackham is also a few feet behind him, and he's been tied up down there for a little bit.
You know, Max had a problem in his qualifying. Remember, he was very, very strong. All of a sudden, he was up among the top 3. Then the car completely slowed down. Then it seemed to come on strong. So it might be an ignition problem or something of that nature and type. Let's talk about a few other competitors before we go back to green that are essential in this one. Hats off to Missouri like days of old for doing a good job. Goodale started the season at the Battle of the Beach, which Joe Koss called the action from. Goodale was strong there, and he's been strong pretty much ever since. Joe, are you surprised that Goodale has been able to carry that momentum on throughout 2013?
Well, this necessarily isn't Goodale's best racetrack here at Stafford, but he's been able to make it work. You know, he's had his ups and downs over the course of the season, and he started out extremely strong. He faltered a little bit in the middle of the season, but he's starting to gather it back in, which really makes sense because this tracks that we run at the beginning of the season for modified racing are also the tracks that they run at the end of the season. And I think Eric Goodale has really gotten those cars and that racetrack figured out. And he's done a pretty good job in that 58 car tonight as he's trying to make this Stafford Speedway feel a little bit more like home by getting some extra laps around the Speedway.
You know, there was a time, John, that Kenny Berry was considered a guy that knew how to build race cars and knew how to set up race cars. But a lot of people question his ability as a driver. Then all of a sudden, like turning off a light switch or turning on a light switch, Kenny Berry became a factor. And I think he's showing that tonight. John McKennedy, I think, is one of the great talents of super modified and open wheel modified racing. He does not get the credit he so justly deserves, but I've seen him run that race car, and I have to tell you, I think Kenny Berry is doing a great job with it tonight as well.
It's been a while. We have not seen Kenny behind the wheel, and it's great to see him back in there. They made the decision when John was going to go off of the Oswego Classic weekend to come out here tonight, and I didn't think the car would run. I was surprised. Surprised to see
really
Kenny
strong.
here.
Really strong. Let's talk a little bit about Richard Savory. You know how people rely on other people as their coaches? Joey Carafas. There was a time in racing in the Northeast that Joey Carafas was a household word. He's a great guy, and he is definitely the coach in this one. Who are the big movers and the shakers? Ryan Priest started 11th. He's now 4th. The 13 of Massey started 12th. He's now 5th. And then, of course, Rowan Pennick started 11th. Well, he's moved back a bit. He's 15th. Let's go back to John Spence as we're about to go green.
Rich Keeter's ready to do that too. Drop the green flag and turn this field loose one more time on a restart here after 22 completed laps, and it's going to be a drag race out of the corner here as Rocco's going to reign supreme off of turn number 2. Here comes Priest.
Priest looking for the second spot, takes a bid to the inside of Christopher, but Christopher slams the door shut. Priest now back to the inside off turn 4.
Priest now gathers it back. He runs in the tire tracks of Teddy Christopher. Down to the bottom of turn number 2, it is Kid Rock, the leader. All of a sudden, Wren gets a second win. He closes up the gap as they head to turn 3.
You look at that top 5, Ben, and as far as regulars that run this series throughout the year, the only one that's in the mix there is Norm Wren, because right behind him, he's got Mahoning Speedway, former ROC competitor, Ziner running in the number 5 spot, breathing right over his shoulder.
But the race is on for the lead. Ted Christopher trying to put a move to the inside of Keith Rocco. Down into turn number 3 they go. It's Rocco, Christopher, Priest, Wren, and Ziner.
There are 3 cars, red and white in combination, running 1, 2, and 3. Keith Rocco has had a tough season here at Stafford. Now Christopher pulls out a line as they head to Joe at turn 3.
Wheel to wheel, Christopher in the 00, red and white, inside lane of the racetrack. But Keith Rocco powers back to the high lane, wheel to wheel off 4.
Rowan Pennick's come alive in car number 25, and Kenny Berry's following him in the number 21 car as they work into the first turn. Out of the corner, down the back straightaway, Priest and Rocco are hooked up in a Nerf barn battle right up behind Teddy Christopher through the third and fourth turns.
They come back to the stride. Christopher is still the man leader here. Meanwhile, Priest is moving to the inside. Priest bids to the bottom. He'll challenge for second. Off turn 2, they head down the backstretch.
Ryan Priest has that wheel to the inside of Keith Rocco, but Rocco steps out of line, blocks the move to the inside. A few cars back, Stephen Massey is out of shape. He'll stack the entire field up behind him. Everybody continues on.
Massey got on real hard, bumper tagged the car that was in front of him, and that's exactly how it played out, as Joe called it. They had to jam up, stack up there, so they wouldn't end up hitting anybody.
No question about it. Massey has excellent car control. Meanwhile, look at Zane Zenner. He's down underneath the number 53 cars. They work their way. Norman Wren still trying to hold on desperately for the 4th spot as they head off turn 2.
Wheel to wheel now. Zenner has a challenge to the high lane of the racetrack as they make their way down into turn number 3. It is the 58 of Goodale working to the outside lane of the racetrack, trying to creep inside the top 5.
Eric Goodale's got a beautiful run going here as he goes to the outside of Zenner. They're wheel to wheel going through the turn here. Goodale trying to get the advantage. He's on it hard off of turn number 2. Zenner fights back on the inside. Massey's right up behind the both of them, watching it all as they come off turn number 4.
Massey recovered quickly from that little slip up. He's a huge factor here as he's working the outside lane. Massey is going to the front of the field off turn 2.
Massey looks high, now falls back in line behind Zenner. Opens it up to the outside. The two come together. Meanwhile, battle for second. Ryan Priest finding room to the inside of Rocco.
They come off turn number 4 like two bulls in a china closet, as meanwhile it is Rocco that's still set in second. Priest still setting in the 3rd spot. 4th is still Bren, and 5th is Goodale with car number 58.
Kenny Barry stays right tight, ready going into turn number 3 behind Stephen Massey and Jeff Malave. Wow, we got one into the wall. One in front of the CarQuest Motorsports sign over in the corner. Tommy Barrett gets collected, and we go yellow here on lap number 32.
Well, Joe Koss is down there where the action is. Joe, can you tell us more?
We have fire.
Well, it got chaotic at the entrance of the back straightaway. 3 cars came piling in. Tommy Barrett, one of them, and now one car smoldering down here in turn 3 beneath the CarQuest Motorsports sign. And our safety crews will scramble out to the scene, but it got wild deep in the pack. A couple of cars came together, and then it was on from there at the entrance of turn 3.
Well, that is the Todd Owen machine that went up in smoke and hit at a ton. Todd Owen has had an absolute awful season on the Modified Racing Series. This guy is so talented. He's such a good driver, but they've had no luck at all. Mechanical problems. They had problems with the heads on the engine, leaking, forcing him to be out of the competition on several occasions. They just haven't been able to get that engine program working. Tonight, it looked like it was working, and this is home turf for Todd Owen, and he usually runs so strong. Look at Louis Michelides, John. He is back down on pit road. That is the 2nd time in, and so is in Pastriak, Chris Pastriak in car 5.
Dan Reservi's also out there, and Tommy Barrett, who was involved over in that corner through no fault of his own, is also on pit road, and they're looking the number 9 car over.
Well, let's set the field for you. We are on lap number 32 of 80. Leader is car number 00. Joe Brady owns the automobile. The driver is Ted Christopher. 2nd position, Keith Rocco, car number 88. 3rd position, Ryan Priest, car number 31. In the 4th position, it is the number 53 machine. That, of course, is Norm Wren. Position number 5 is Eric Goodale. 6th spot is Zenner. 7th spot is the number 13 car of Massey. 8th spot is the number 21 machine of Kenny Barry. And in the 9th position, currently, it looks to be behind him, the 9th place car looks to be the number 2 of Malave, and rounding out the top 10 looks to be Rowan Pennick with car number 25. Just out of the top 10 is Richard Savory. John, are you surprised at all that Rowan Pennick hasn't moved further forward, or even a Richard Savory in this event this early in the event? The strategy for these races are a lot different than the Wheel and Modified Tour.
They really are, and sometimes it backfires if you hang back there, and we've seen that happen. Caution period's not coming when guys are sitting there thinking that, you know, we may see a yellow flag here at some point in time, and it don't happen. I don't know if that's really the case here. One thing that I am picking up on here, as the cars come down the front straightaway, out of the top 6 positions, as we run right now under caution, there's only one car in the top 6 that has won this year.
That's correct.
That's Keith Rocco.
That is right, and that win took place, of course, at the New London Waterford Speed Bowl. It was just a few weeks back. Tommy Barrett's night is not a good one so far, but I have seen many, many Modified Race Series events, and I have seen Barrett come from the dusk to head to the winner's circle on many an occasion. We're back to John Spence as they head off turn number 4.
And they're going to go around one more time, is the word from Rich Keeter on the flag stand as the Speedway stays under yellow. And we've got some movement here What do you got, Ben?
We sure do. The movers and shakers in this event. Ryan Priest started 11th. He is now 3rd. And then it is Goodale, started in the 10th spot, up to 5th. 13 of Massey started 12th, now setting in 7th. The 21 of Barry started 13th and up to 8th. Joe, they head towards you in turn number 3.
And here's how they'll restart. Ted Christopher will have the inside lane with Keith Rocco on his right hip. Inside row number 2, Ryan Priest and Norm Wren as they roll past me in turn 3.
Get ready, it's showtime. 32 up on the board. Here's John Spence as he brings them off turn number 4.
And Rich Peters sends them on their way down the front straightaway. Priest is going to go to the inside here. Rocco's going to set up shop as he goes up the hill through the first and second turn. Priest right underneath on the outside. It'll be Rocco going after Christopher. And a good run going into turn number 3.
They are side by side and wheel to wheel. They come together like two cymbals in an orchestra. This time it is Keith Rocco to take over the number 1 spot. Meanwhile, Christopher drops back to 2nd off 2.
Side-by-side battle is the one for the 5th spot. To the inside, it's Goodale. Outside, it's Zane Ziner. That is the first side-by-side battle on the racetrack. Behind them, Kenny Berry is on the high side, and Massey is down low.
And they get a good one down the front straightaway here. Barry Malave is coming up here in the number 2 car as he's right behind the number 21 of Kenny Barry. Meanwhile, in front of Barry, side-by-side racing action, Stephen Massey and Ziner going nerf bar to nerf bar off of turn 4, Ben.
Massey does a great job making his presence known on the inside. The tail that wags a dog suddenly becomes Barry with car number 21. Off turn 2, lead is pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's Keith Rocco who's got the advantage. Ted Christopher is there. Ryan Priest running 3rd, and Norm Wren chasing them down in 4th.
Well, you mentioned Rowan Pennant. Was I surprised? No. I think he is calculating this right. We're at lap number 36, and Pennant is starting to make his move here as he's chasing down John McKennedy in car number 21.
Another mover and shaker is Richard Saver.
Trouble in turn 3. One car goes around. A couple of cars come together.
Again.
The 79 of Max Zackham is involved as well. It's the 19 of Snyder who spun around on the inside lane of the racetrack. Zackham, with nowhere to go, piled in beneath the sprint sign, and that'll bring out another caution here.
It certainly is a tough night for Tommy Barrett. He becomes a victim of circumstances as well. You mentioned it before, John, before we went back to green on the last caution, that Rowan Pennant knows how to run these races. That's why he's running up in front in the points. He has been very cautious the first 30 laps, and now he's just starting to go. Same can be said about Richard Savery. Savery was not a big player in the first 30 laps, but in the last 6, he's really getting up on the wheel. Richard Savery, son of the legendary George Savery. That's a name, a lot of great names in racing in this division as well.
The last 2 races we ran with this series, Ben, bears mentioning Todd Patnode won last Saturday night at Monadnock Speedway. 2 nights prior, 48 hours before, Richard Savery was the victor at Thompson Speedway. The interesting thing was, I mean, there was 48 hours that separated those 2 events, but those 2 guys, that was their first ever wins with this series.
You know, it's quite impressive to see the talent, and Richard Savery is a very talented young man. Like Joe Koss, he's a recent new dad, and of course, that's kind of put a little spring in his step as well. There is no question about that. You mentioned before that Jeff Malave was marching forward for a while. He kind of backed out of it a little bit. Let's go further back in the field. Louis Michaelides, the Stewart Automotive Group, they're real racers. You know, there is so much talk about how to get the job done and work your way to the front of the field here in these races. That team has worked exceptionally very, very hard to be able to get the job done. So, as we continue to tell the story in this one, the movers and shakers, well, there's no question about it. Kid Rock and Teddy Christopher. You know, there was a time that Keith Rocco turned wrenches and took orders from Teddy Christopher. That was because his dad, Rocco's dad, a legendary race driver in his own right, said if you want to learn racing, you got to start from the bottom, kid. And he did. And I think he learned his lessons pretty well.
Certainly did. Norm Wren continues to impress as he is the only regular competitor with this series, running in the top 5. He's got visitors with him there.
You know, and we should mention that David Bergman, the son of the racing legend Carl Bugsy Stevens, he is the crew chief on that race car. Joe, how do they look as you look at them before they go to green?
Well, last time around, Keith Rocco took the lead by going around the outside, and that's where Ted Christopher has them lined up. They'll rev the engine one more time as they come to the green flag.
Off turn number 4, get ready, pedal to the metal, green, green, green. There's John Spence, and they're racing.
And Rocco's going to take him down into turn number 1 here as he drops it down low. Priest looks to the inside of TC Wren, and here comes Massey. Massey's going to be strong on the outside here and challenge Norman Wren for the number 4 spot. Look at how quick he's going through the corners. Stephen Massey's on a mission.
He sure is. I like that kid, and I think he's got a ton of talent. He works his way to the outside. Ryan Priest, they say he's the hottest driver. Let's see what will happen in turn 3.
Massey in the 4th spot, right behind Ryan. Priest bid for the lead. Ted Christopher swings it down to the inside of Keith Rocco, wheel to wheel for the top spot.
They come off turn number 4. They are side by side and wheel to wheel. Christopher, bottom shot move. Rocco slams the door. There's no room in the end this time. Back off turn 2.
I tell you, Massey's got something here for the front, and if he's smart, he'll stay right there and let it all come to him. He's right up behind Priest, pressuring Ryan down the front straightaway. Wren has still got a top 5 run going.
There's no question about it. This is a great run for Wren. He is very, very strong here tonight. Massey is all over the talents of Ryan Priest. This time they come back to the line. Half of the event is history. The second half is where the action is.
Down the front straightaway, Christopher continues to pester the race leader Rocco. Looks to the inside through the apex of 1 and 2. Kid Rock beats him off of turn number 2. Down the back straightaway to you, Joe.
And it cost Ted Christopher because it put Ryan Priest right to his back bumper, and now he begins to challenge for second.
There's no question about it. The heat is on, and Priest is all over the Ted Christopher machine. Now Ryan Priest goes to the outside. It doesn't work. Here comes Massey again as they head for 3.
Goodale still running solid. He's in 6th spot. 7th is Kenny Barry in Dad's number 21 car. And behind him is Ziner in the 23. Oh, we got trouble. We got a loose tire. Pay attention in the first corner. We got a tire coming to you as they roll down through the turn. Zackham was involved, collected out here. And it was Rowan Pennick that threw the rubber.
The point leader, Rowan Pennick, lost the tire. And Chris Pastriak tried to pull off the timely move of the event, locked up the car, but the tire was directly in front of him. Louis Michaelides was involved in that mix-up as well, and the Dunleavy number 79 became a victim of circumstances. You see how quickly it all can change. There's no question about that. Rowan Pennick was using all the right ingredients to make the story one of success tonight. And all of a sudden, a tire or maybe a rim or maybe a hub broke on that race car. We're not sure, but Rowan Pennick is being checked over as we speak. A wild ride for Pennick down the front straightaway. Louis Michaelides is down on pit road. We're looking at a replay. And yes, all of a sudden, something broke in the left rear. And when it did, the Pennick car went spinning like a top, and it became a 3-wheel car. Let's go down and see if Tony Sutton was able to see anything from his vantage point on pit road.
Well, I was watching out as they entered into the turn, but I didn't see what happened. The Zero car has done what I mentioned earlier. They took the steer axle tire on the right side and put it to the rear, and the drive axle tire on the front. I thought this was something that would not happen, but it's happening right now. The drivers change it over because they don't like the way the car is handled. We'll get more information on the crash later down the front straightaway in just a moment.
Well, you know, from our vantage point, we're taking a look at the monitor, and this is what it appears as you look at the left rear of the number 25 car. Not only did the wheel come off, the complete hub assembly and brakes came off. Literally, there is nothing left there but the actual axle tube itself. Everything else has been sheared off and literally came off and pulled away. So that's what basically took place as well. It appears that the Pennick machine is being picked up on the hook, brought back to the pits as well. We're looking back at a replay. We've seen Richard Savory pull off a great move, moving to the inside, and that's when something broke. And it did break, John. There's no question about that. It wasn't in a driver situation or there was no contact. Something literally did break in the race car itself.
And I believe it was right in front of Dave Etheridge, who did a great job to avoid any contact. Tough break for the point leader, Pennick, as the Roscoe Racing number 25 is on the hook and being brought into the infield.
Gary Cazella, the owner of that race car, he's a real character and a great guy that knows how to race and race hard. Brian Crowley is the spotter for that team as well.
That tire was going.
It sure was. Let's set the field now. Car number 68 is the leader, of course, for Keith Rocco. Teddy Christopher second. Ryan Preece is third. Massey in the fourth spot. Bren has got 5. And in the 6th position, currently, it is Goodale. 7th spot is Zahner. Then 8th position, Barry. Good run for Richard Savory. In the 9th spot, equally as impressive, is David Etheridge, and you were right calling it that way. Let's go to Joe Koss as he's going to take him to the green.
Well, keeping an eye on Stephen Massey in that black number 13. He's been very impressive down at this end of the racetrack in the high lane, and that's where he'll line up for this restart in the 4th position.
Off the turn they come, back to the line. Green flag is out. Rocco gets a nice bite, John, and Rocco leads him to turn 2.
Look at Preece go to work on the inside of Christopher. Right behind him, Stephen Massey's going to come along for the ride as Ren battles Eric Goodale for the number 5 spot. Kenny Barry. Wow, what a run he's got going, and Art Barry's number 21.
There's no question about it. They're doubled up further back in the field. Massey is still holding on to that 4th spot. Challenge for the lead off turn 2.
It's Ted Christopher again working to the inside of Keith Rocco. They touch on the back straightaway. Rocco hangs on to the spot. 2 car lengths now separate 1st and 2nd, and Ryan Preece on the attack of Christopher.
They come off turn number 4. Everybody in formation doubled up except for the leader. Good racing wherever you look back in the field. All of a sudden, Zane Zenner comes back to life. Here comes David Etheridge. There's a surprise.
Absolutely, right there with Barry, with Savory over his right rear as they go through the 3rd and 4th corner. That previous lap, Massey made wall contact out here, sending up a spray of sparks, but he kept on trucking it down into turn number 1. He's still solidly in 3rd spot.
He's got the 3rd spot behind Ted Christopher now, and Ryan Preece is shuffled back to 4th. Here comes Massey drawing right to the back bumper of Christopher on turn 4.
There's no question about it that Massey is hungry for a victory here at Stafford. He is all over the back bumper of Ted Christopher. That's the challenge. They come off the turn, single file. Christopher's going to make a bid for it at turn 3.
Joe Brady's 00 dips to the bottom as they go through the 3rd corner here. We knew we were going to get a show between the 2 cars that started in the front row. Christopher and Rocco, and Stephen Massey's right there in car number 13.
But Massey gets a little bit loose off turn number 2 and allows the top 2 to get away. Rocco on the high lane of the racetrack, dead even at turn number 3. 68 high side, 00. Christopher bottom, still side by side.
They come off turn number 4. They are dead even at the line. Christopher muscling his way to the bottom. Off turn number 2, John, it looks like Rocco is back in command.
He certainly is. He has a slight advantage going down the back straightaway and drops it down low going through 3 and 4. Scanning back here, I'm watching John, I keep going to say John McKennedy again. Kenny Barry all over the back end of Eric Goodale going into turn number 1 here as he continues to pester from the 21 car.
And the 21 car of Barry is getting faster and faster. This time a peak to the outside in turn number 3. Now crosses over and looks to the bottom on the exit of 4.
There's no question about it. There's good racing right through the field in this one. Richard Savory's trying to get up and on top of the wheel and back to the front in this one. Massey has now become a contender, setting in the 3rd spot. He reels in on Christopher, gives him a smooch off turn number 4. John Massey is looking to get to the lead.
He certainly is. 50 laps have been completed as Goodenough slows over in turn number 3. Previous lap check, 21 of the 26 starters were still competing in this 80-lap event as Rocco continues now to set the pace.
Off turn number 4, Kid Rock is still the leader. Nobody pulling out a line this time. 51 laps and counting. Look a little further back in the field, Joe, and you'll see that Kenny Barry is really applying a lot of pressure to Goodale.
Yeah, Goodale got a good run that time off turn number 2, though, and is able to fend off the challenge for the moment. Then it's the Barry car. Then it's Dave Etheridge who's working his way through the field.
good to see Etheridge run as well as he is.
And then all of a sudden, Barrett comes out of nowhere. Tommy Barrett comes out of nowhere to become a factor. We've got a car around to the bottom of turn number 4. So the caution comes out. It looks to be the 0 car, I believe, for the Holdridge camp that has brought out the caution. We are on lap number 51. Heading down on pit road, Tommy Barrett comes in again. Now, Barrett was up among the top 8 positions. Malave is in, and there's our buddy Louis back down on pit road. He has spent a lot of time there. These cautions might have worked to his advantage as well. Good enough. No luck at all continuing there for that camp with the 1 New Hampshire. Let's go and check in with Joe Koss and see what he says as he is looking at it from a completely different perspective in turn 3.
Well, it seemed like Holdridge just got a little bit crossed up that time off turn number 4, and he'll have to bring that car back down the pit lane. Meserve will come down the pit lane as well, as is Max Zackham. So an opportunity here with still a little less than halfway to go to get some more service on these race cars, and a great opportunity to catch up with our pit road reporters.
Let's go back down to Tony Sutton. Meserve is in the pits as well.
Well, Jeff Malave is doing exactly what I said I didn't think anyone would do, changing from drive tires to steer tire on the right-hand side, trying to get a little bit better grip on this car. And I guess the strategy is that the difference in the wear between the front and the rear allows them to pick up a little bit better handling as the track gets really, really sticky by switching from the drive to the steer and the steer to the drive. Malave's down and out.
51 laps show up on the big board. Let's set the field for you. Kid Rock, Keith Rocco is your leader. Ted Christopher is second. Great run for Massey, setting in the 3rd spot. 4th position is currently held down by Ryan Priest. Then Brent is in the 6th spot. Zenner is in the 7th spot. 8th is Goodale. 9th is Barry. Great run for Etheridge in 10th. Just out of the top 10 is Richard Savory, followed by Chris Pastriak and Charlie Pastriak. Then it is the Drowning Machine in the next position there, just out of the top 10. Any surprises so far, John Spence, as we're on lap 51?
Probably. Well, you know what? I'm focusing on the number 9 car. Watching that operation down there right now. They have been hovering over the car for quite some time once again, and we have not seen the traditional tire change, or at least I haven't picked up on it yet, where they would flip the right rear with the right front. You're looking underneath the car. You can see someone's got a flashlight trained underneath there. So there's something definitely amiss on car number 9, as Tommy Barrett's been battling the situation all night long.
He sure has, and we are about ready to go back to green in just a moment here. Let's go back down to Joe Koss.
Well, I'll tell you, that 23 car of Zane Ziner has done a very good job today, competing up against a group of guys that have been able to run here on a regular basis. Ted Christopher, Keith Rocco, Ryan Priest, all those guys run here regularly. But Zane Ziner, he doesn't have a lot of experience here, but he's doing a great job at that 6th spot.
That's a great point, too. I'm impressed.
Yep.
Heck of a job.
Barry Cannell knows how to create the magic. Barrett is back out, but they're going to go to green before he catches the field. We are back and racing, and Christopher. Oh, trouble down the front straightaway. We've got a mad scramble as we've got 2 cars that spun to the inside.
Yeah, Holdridge and Jeff Malave.
Yep. Malave spun further to the bottom of the racetrack, and Holdridge was the car that brought out the last caution. So he gets a double play on that one. 51 laps of the 80 laps are now complete.
Well, Ben, I'll tell you, I think I saw what happened from my vantage point over here in turn number 3. The 21 car of Kenny Berry did not come up to speed on the restart, and it stacked the cars about 10 rows back behind him up, and that's what caused the 2 of Malave and the 0 of Mike Holdridge to stack up. They got on the binders, but it was too little too late, and then they went sliding through the infield grass.
System. The car's been running hot, so they're trying to open up some of the front to get a little bit more air around the radiator and make sure there's nothing that's obstructing the airflow over the cooling system. But that's why they were taking so long, because they wanted to make sure that the car didn't overheat.
So we were on lap number 51. There was no cars on pit road. All of a sudden, car number 79 comes in. Max Zacham's had a real tough night. Yeah. There's no question about that.
No, he's coming off a good run last Saturday night at Monadnock Speedway up in New Hampshire. But yes, it definitely has been a tough outing for the Preston, Connecticut driver. Those of you that follow this series closely, I want to remind you we'll be back here 2 weeks from tonight, September 13th. We return here to the Stafford Motor Speedway. We'll be at Seacock Speedway on October 5th. Lee USA Speedway, 2-day event, qualifying on Saturday, October 12th. Feature race on Sunday the 13th. And we'll be part of the Thompson Speedway World Series of Speedway Racing once again in the fall. And that'll be on Saturday, October 19th at the Big T. That's the remaining schedule for the Valenti Modified Racing Series.
Well, the field is still under yellow. The safety services crew checks out the racing surface. Remember, we're going to do this all over again, not next Friday night, but a week from Friday. And we've seen some incredible competition. There is no question about that. 80 laps is the difference. 51 are complete. This is the Shark Cycle special presentation. Keith Rocco and Ted Christopher. No one is more intense with battling with them than the men in the second row, and that is Stephen Massey and the number 31 machine of Ryan Priest. Now, for Ryan Priest, this is the Kathy Muniz-owned race car. He drives for them at Thompson in the Sunoco Modifieds. So this is something different for him to set behind the wheel of this race car. And as we said before, they purchased the car. It ran at Bowman Gray at in the competition there, and they only ran it one other time, to my knowledge, and it was here at Stafford in the first race here at Stafford this season for the MRS Series. Lights are off from Whelen Engineering on the pace car. They head towards Joe Koss in turn 3.
Side lane this time is going to be Keith Rocco. The outside will be Ted Christopher. Stephen Massey has advanced to position this time, and that number 13 will restart to the inside of Ryan Priest as they get set to go back to the green on lap 51.
All righty, thank you, Joe. As Keeter looks out toward turn number 4, here they come. Green flag is back over the speedway. Back to racing we go. Off into turn number 1. We got a good battle for the lead right at the drop of the green flag, as you would expect. Good race out of the corner as they come down the back straightaway to you, Joe Koss.
Well, here comes Ted Christopher, midway down the backstretch, looks to the inside of Keith Rocco. Wheel to wheel they go. They're side by side for third as well, right behind him.
Good close battle for the lead here. Nerf bar to Nerf bar going into turn number 1. Oh, we got Rocco in trouble. Contact was made. TC continues on, and Stephen Massey breaks through the pack, sitting atop the field.
Wow, how quickly it all changed and involved as cars continue to pull away rather slowly. And Keith Rocco's machine is still stranded, but now pulls away. And the final car to move away from the scene of the altercation looks to be the number 85 car. Chris Pastriak is down on pit road. Barrett's car is still on the racetrack as well. Let's see what's going to happen. Let's go down to Tony Sutton as they're coming in on pit road fast and furious.
We're trying to set up to watch exactly what transpires here. With tire switches going on in a 5 car. The 45, more adjustments on that car. The 16, more adjustments on that car. Waiting to see if either of the 2 cars that were involved in that incident come down pit road. And we're heading down toward the end where the 00 is pitted.
So Ted Christopher comes down on pit road. We're going to be watching this. Keith Rocco is also on pit road, and Massey has inherited the lead. So let's see what's going to happen here. Is there going to be any other adjustments issued through timing and scoring, or issued by the Modified Racing Series officials on cars that might have been involved or might not have been involved in the event?
Well, previous lap before TC went down pit road, Rich Keeter displayed the black flag in the direction of Ted Christopher. But he's coming back out, so let's see what happens. He didn't point it. He just flew it. Gingerly waved it.
That's right. Let's see what's going to happen. The field is being told to cross over now. The complexion of this event has drastically changed. On lap number 52, what once was a battle between Kid Rock and Ted Christopher is all but gone. And now it is a battle between Ryan Priest and Stephen Massey. Now, Massey has the option of where he wants to start in this, correct, John?
Yes, sir.
And he has chosen the outside lane. Yellow lights remain on Joe Koss, what are your thoughts on this? Was that a smart move by Massey to go to the outside or not? We talked earlier tonight in the other races how the outside lane had a tremendous amount of grip.
Well, I think the outside lane for Stephen Massey is pretty good. I think his race car works really well up there on that end of the racetrack in turns 3 and 4. However, the first turn you get to after a restart is just that, the first turn. I don't think his car is as good on the high lane of the racetrack in turns 1 and 2. And Ryan Preece, a regular, you don't want to give him that inside lane. I think that move is going to cost Stephen Massey the lead here on this restart.
So TC put to the end of the restarting lineup here with a 0-0 for the contact over in the first corner. So keep an eye on Rocco, keep an eye on TC to see how they can fare here. Come back up through and see if they can get to the front here.
Off turn number 4, the green flag is out, and Preece has a little bit, well, more giddy up, but all of a sudden here comes Massey off turn 2.
Steve Massey
with a half a car length advantage to the backstretch, and he goes to the lead. Preece back to second, now side by side for third. Zahner on the outside, and Norm Wren wheels it to the bottom.
Norman Storman down out of turn number 4 to the inside. Goodale to the inside of the 21 of Kenny Barry, and they got a great battle going on as they are challenging the Zahner car, the number 23. Oh, look at Etheridge. Etheridge right in the mix here in car number 34.
We've got some great action in the middle of the pack, but Massey is starting to string it out at the point. Richard Savory is coming back to life. He's all over the number 34 machine of Etheridge as they head off turn 2.
Savory right now running the 8th spot on the racetrack, and that number 99 winner just 8 days ago at Thompson lines it up behind Dave Etheridge.
Boy, Etheridge strong down out of turn number 4 to the inside. Richard Savory started to come along as he is right there in that number 99. And Tommy Barrett on the outside of Charlie Pasteryak trying to make it click up top going into 3.
Meanwhile, look at Ted Christopher. Bonsai move to the bottom. He is down underneath Chris Pasteryak. Keith Rocco and Teddy Christopher are coming back to the front of this field. They are working their way through traffic, Joe. They are the movers and shakers.
Keith Rocco running 12th. Ted Christopher running 13th. Nose to tail. Here comes Rocco trying to pick up a spot over Jeff Malave.
Bears watching those two as they come back to the front together as they're making their move here on Pasteryak down the back straightaway going after Pasteryak. That's Charlie lying ahead of Keith Rocco, but up the front of the pack here. Stephen Massey is checking out on the rest of the field here with 58 laps completed.
Who's moved back into the top 10, John? It is Tommy Barrett with car number 9. He's got more lives than a cat, and he is coming also to the front of the field. Look at Rocco. He just gave the Charlie Pasteryak, number 15, a shot to the bumper that would jar the fillings in anyone's team.
Absolutely, as Charlie drops down to the bottom of the front straightaway going in here. Rocco's going to go to the outside. Teddy stays down low off 2. He'll go to the high side on the back straightaway as Rocco passes Charlie Pasteryak in turn number 3.
And who's the tail that wags the dog? It's going to be Ted Christopher. Every move that Rocco makes, Christopher makes a counter move as he heads to turn 2.
Well, Rocco is cutting everybody through the field, and Ted Christopher just eases his way through, letting Rocco do all the work. The next one's going to be a challenging one, though, as Rocco closes in on the back bumper of Tommy Barrett.
Well, Barrett takes the high line. Rocco pulls back in the line here. Up a little further forward. Look at Norman Wren. He is all over Ryan Preece. A great battle for second.
Norm Wren's been strong since this race started. He's been in the top 5 since the green came down initially. And right now he is challenging Preece for the number 2 spot. He's all over him going into 1.
Off turn number 2, Preece has the spot. Wren dips down to the inside lane, but can't make it happen that time by. It's Preece holding on to second, and Wren running in his tire tracks through turns 3 and 4.
Kenny Barry also is making some good moves. He just moved around Goodale. And look at Kid Rock. They are all over Tommy Barrett as they continue to work their way off turn number 2. Rocco moves on by. Will Christopher be able to make the move? I don't think so.
He can't follow him through that time, and Tommy Barrett will shut the door. It's the most distance these two have had from each other since their cruise up through the field.
Richard Savory's another one to keep an eye on as he goes through the first and second turn. He has Dave Etheridge in sight, and he's trying to chase him down. There goes Rocco. Rocco by Goodale.
Amazing, John. He went around Goodale like Goodale put the brakes on. Goodale is definitely in trouble, and now Ted Christopher moves to the outside. Look at Kenny Berry and Zane Zener in turn 3.
Goodale don't have the race car he had 10-15 laps ago as people are passing him at will. Charlie Pastriak went by him. Chris is coming up on him now in the 3rd and 4th corner.
Back up to the front of the field. Zane Zener still tries to hold on, Joe. Here comes Kenny Berry again off turn 2.
Again, looking down to the inside goes Berry. Zeiner holding on to that 4th spot. Into turn number 3 they go. Berry puts a little tap to the back bumper, but it's Zeiner to hang on to the 4th spot.
David Etheridge is turning in a great run here today. Hats off to him. Kenny Berry almost lost it that time, and all of a sudden Richard Savory is back there, John, as he head in turn 3.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you, Zeiner continues to impress, Ben. Double Z, Zane Zeiner, remember the name here, as he has done a great job, and he's looking for a top 5 finish in his first MRS race in some time.
He sure has. He's doing a great job. Barry Cannell creates the magic. Look at Kenny Berry down to the inside towards Joe Carr.
It was a perfect crossover move that Berry used to get down to the inside. He'll sweep to the bottom of Zeiner and pick up the 4th spot, but closing in is Etheridge.
Boy, Dave Etheridge has got to be pleased with car number 34 here tonight. Very, very strong, as is Massey, who is checked out. He's in another zip code here, and he's going to get the 10 to go sign from Rich Keeter on the flag stand. 10 to go for Stephen Massey.
Meanwhile, David Etheridge is still muscling his way all over the back bumper of the Zener machine. All of a sudden, look at Kid Rock. Keith Rocco has left Ted Christopher behind, Joe, and he's working over Richard Savory.
The battle right in front of him is Savory. It goes to the bottom of Dave Etheridge, and Keith Rocco tries to fill the hole.
Massey victorious at Beach Ridge Motor Speedway this summer back in August. He won the opener at Waterford back in April. And he's right now trying to nail down his 3rd win of the 2013 campaign. He's on his way.
There is less than 9 circuits to go. All of a sudden, Barrett is starting to back up just a bit. Meanwhile, look back towards the front of the field as once again, it looked like for a while that Rocco was going to be able to move in on Savory, but he was just able to shake him off, Joe, down in turn 3.
Yeah, Savory has got a very good race car, and Rocco is starting to use his tires up, charging through the field.
Savory right up behind Etheridge going into the corner. Caution is up.
The caution is for car number 87, David Batondo, who spun on the inside of the back straightaway. He is able to pull back away under his own power. We are on lap number 72, and we have seen some incredible competition. Early in the event, we saw Kid Rock take the lead, Ted Christopher take it for a while, and then we saw Stephen Massey, the youngster, go out in front and literally start to pull away. Tommy Barrett is back down on pit road. He has had a roller coaster night. Let's set the field for you right now. Currently still in 2nd is Ryan Priest with car number 31. 3rd is still Norman Wren. 4th, a great run for Kenny Berry. 5th spot is Zener. Then in the 6th spot, it is Etheridge. 7th spot is Savory. 8th position is Rocco. 9th is Teddy Christopher. And 10th is Charlie Pastriak. Just out of the top 10 is Chris Pastriak with car number 5. Let's go down on pit road and see if Tony Sutton has more.
Well, I can tell you down here, everyone's kind of biting their fingernails, waiting to see exactly what's going to happen. The leaders did not want this yellow to come out. Talking to the crew members, they're saying we were really starting to get our laps down. Our pace was right where we wanted it. Now they're all bunched up again. It's going to be interesting to see if Kenny Berry can put the 21 up further in the field.
You know, it doesn't seem all that long ago, Ben, we were disturbing Tommy Barrett to put him on MRN radio in high school.
That's right.
And got cooperation from the school, Millis High School. He went off to college this past week.
I know it's hard to believe how quickly these things change. Let's talk a little bit about Massey at the front of this field. This kid, Stephen Massey, they don't have a big budget. There was a real sad story that goes behind the scenes. His dad was instrumental, a huge supporter in this racing operation. Yes. And this kid is also the real deal. We talk a lot about Barrett, and I think sometimes that that Massey goes under the radar. Tonight, he is not under the radar. He is on the radar, and he is the big dog to beat. 72 laps now up on the board. Rich Keeter gives him the clenched yellow flag. One more lap before we're set to go to green.
Massey's got a boatload of talent. There is no question. He's an exceptional driver. And he's got the LG Restaurant Supply, Rhode Island Dolls, number 13, hooked up here tonight. He was quite a ways out there in the number 1 spot here. Ryan Preece had absolutely nothing for him. But let's see what's going to happen here when we go back to green. Norm Wren continues to impress. He in the number 53 car. He's been kind of an up and down season for Norm Wren, but tonight he's had a solid run, and he's been in the top 5 since the race started. Kenny Barry's impressed in the number 21. He's probably going to get to liking this thing here. Probably tell McKennedy, go play with your super.
The green flag is back out. And they're playing and racing hard to the bottom of turn number 1. Joe Koss picks up the leader down the back straightaway.
It's a car length advantage for Stephen Massey over Ryan Preece on the back straightaway. The battle is on for 3rd. Norman Wren has it. Kenny Barry wants it. It'll give him the bumper through the middle of turns 3 and 4.
Etheridge is on the outside of Ziner as they continue to battle here. That's a good race. And that is for the number 5 position on the Speedway. Zane Ziner from Pennsylvania and David Etheridge from Portland, Connecticut battling.
Ryan Preece backed out of it a bit, and that gave Massey the opportunity to run away. 7 laps. Let's count them down. Battle is for 2nd. They are all over Ryan Preece and Norman Wren. Hats off to him. He's going to go to the outside. Look at Kenny Barry down low.
It opens up the inside lane for Barry, but Barry loses the nose of his race car and has to backpedal. Right now, Ryan Preece looks like he's holding up Norman Wren as he works to the bottom.
All by his onesies, it is Stephen Massey taking the 5 to go from Rich Keeter. 5 more laps to go in the 2013 Shark Cycle 80.
They head down the back straightaway. Etheridge pulls out of line one more time. He tries to make his presence known. Off turn number 4. Back to the line they come. Barrett is out of the event.
And Wren's going to the inside of Preece, trying to make a challenge here for the number 2 spot, and he's got a good one going here. Drag race out of the 2nd corner, down the back straightaway. Preece wins out as they come to you, Joe.
And right behind them, Kenny Barry trying to take advantage, but it's Preece, Wren, Barry, and Etheridge 2nd through 5th.
There's no question about it. The leader is gone, and that is Massey. He's in a zip code of his own at the front of the field. That is not the story for 2nd. John, here comes Wren again. He's going to try it on the inside.
That's the race right there, Ben. It's for the number 2 spot. Preece has got his hands full. He's doing a nice job going through 3 and 4, but McKennedy's with Wren. Wren looks to the inside, down the front straightaway, thought better of it, and pulls it up right behind Preece going into turn number 1.
There is no question about it. It's still nose-to-tail action. Off the turn. Here comes Kenny Barry again to try the outside lane. It just doesn't happen down at turn number 3. He'll tuck to the bottom. White flag is out. 1 lap to go.
One more circuit around the half mile here at Stafford Motor Speedway as Steve Massey has got himself a full, well, not quite a full, but almost a full straightaway lead, and he is coming around to take the New England Race Fuel Sunoco checkered flag. Stephen Massey has picked up his 3rd win of the campaign. The rest of the field, Preece will go 2nd, Wren, followed by Barry, and the 34 of Dave Etheridge nailing down the 5th spot.
Well, it was a battle of the fittest, and what an event. The Shark Cycle event will see the young and talented Stephen Massey will be taking the honors of being in CarQuest Victory Lane. Ryan Preece will finish in the runner-up spot, and rounding out the top 3, what a run for Norman Wren. Rich Keeter is down from the starter's stand, and Stephen Massey, he is getting the checkers, and deservingly so. He'll take a parade lap and head to CarQuest Victory Lane with Tony Sutton. Let's go to Joe Koss for his final thoughts.
Well, Stephen Massey certainly able to make it happen today. Was pretty quick throughout the day in practice, was smart in his qualifying heats, and played it exactly right. Inside, outside of the restarts, it really didn't matter. But Stephen Massey, the young kid, the small team, the guy that is working his way up through modified racing and making a name for himself, took a big stride tonight to take home a win at the half mile here at Stafford Motor Speedway.
He's on his parade lap, and deservingly so. I've said it on many an occasion. I've watched this youngster come up from the SK Modifieds at the Thompson Speedway to make his presence known, and he has done it with class and finesse. He is a real racer, and a darn good one. Stephen Massey is the story of the little kid next door, believing in chasing a dream and making that dream come true here at the Stafford Motor Speedway. His car sets in victory lane. Ryan Preece will finish in second. And Norman Wren, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, let me say this. Norman Wren was stronger and better than ever. I want to thank John Spence for an amazing job, as always, allowing us to be a part of his team tonight. But right now, CarQuest Victory Lane is up and going, and the man that is going to be there to meet a very happy young man is Mr. Tony Sutton in CarQuest Victory Lane. Tony?
Well, Steve Massey being congratulated by his crew members and some of the officials on the ground here as he takes off the safety equipment. The gloves come off, the belts, the Hans device, the helmet comes off, and he'll be coming out of the car right now. Ryan Preece coming over to offer congratulations as he's taking his time to get all the safety gear off. A lot of the gear that is there is definitely for a purpose to keep the driver safe, but sometimes it takes a bit to get it all off. Steve about to come out of the car. And to the applause up on the roof. Come on over here, Steve. Steve Massey, what a drive. A little bobble up front, and you definitely capitalized on it and then stayed out of trouble and drove away from the field.
Yeah, I saw Keith and Teddy on the front row, and I knew it was going to be a hard-fought battle up there. And once I got to fourth place, I just rode around. We had plenty of a race left, and things turned out good.
They surely did, but did you feel that the car was getting stronger because you were getting more space between yourself and second place as the race wore on?
Well, I wasn't even going to come to this race until Wednesday afternoon. We threw the backup motor in. It's got a couple of seasons on it, but it's still pretty good. I want to thank Billy the Kid for giving me all the horsepower, all the fans for coming out, Shark Cycle for putting on the show, LG Products, everyone who helps out on the race car, Northeast Race Cars and Parts, FK Rod Ends, everybody that helps out.
This is a great touring division, and you've been really driving well in it, but this is real mark of your ability to get out front and win a race.
Yeah, I have a great crew that gives me a great car to win every week, and we really do our homework at home, and we spend our time working on the race car, and it really pays off.
Steve Massey, it surely did pay off. Congratulations on the win tonight.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can get Ryan over here.
I'm Norman. Right there. Ryan's not here.
You're hiding on me. Well, you earned second place. That was not a cakewalk by any means. You drove hard and you stayed out of trouble, and no bumps and bruises on the car.
No, it's awesome to finally finish a race here in this MRS series. You know, we got some work to do, but Mike, you know, second place is pretty good. I'm happy with it. I'm especially happy that Stevie won. You know, if I couldn't win, I'd rather him win any day. And I got to thank Albert and Kathy for letting me drive this car, and second place, solid finish, and, you know, we can work on it from here.
Well, I hope you got enough notes, because you only got 2 weeks before you guys are back here. And if you picked up enough notes from what happened tonight, I think you're going to be a guy to contend with when you come back.
Well, when I was behind Stevie, I saw exactly where I need to be better, so I think we'll be all right.
Well, there's always strategy. Norm, come on over here. Well, you were storming out there tonight, I'll tell you, and interesting race. It had a lot of dynamics as far as the yellow flags and so on and so forth. Did it give you cause for concern because a couple cars overheated, or you just take your time during the yellow flags and wait to get going again?
My car was good on temperature all night, so I wasn't worried about that. Tell you the truth, on lap, I think it was 72, I did not want to see that caution come out. We were good, real good on the car. I thought I had something for Ryan. He's a good driver. It's nice to be able to run that close to someone and run clean.
It was exciting to watch, and I know you've been struggling a little bit, but this is a real good indication of the type of performance that Norm Wren can provide.
Yeah, we needed this. Last couple of weeks, we ended up going home in a basket, and really discouraging for all the work the crew puts in, and we really needed this third place finish.
No basket tonight. Congratulations on third place.
Thank you.
Well, the celebration still goes on down here with photos and everything else, and I know some fans are starting to leave, but we'll wrap it up here from down Victory Lane and throw it back upstairs for the closing thoughts.